Hello everybody, welcome to Totally Tabled. My name is Shaggy, and today I'm doing a full solo playthrough of Kronologic Paris 1920. In this deduction game for 1 to 4 players, we take the role of an investigator trying to unravel a series of unexplained affairs at the Paris Opera. Now I went ahead and I got everything all set up. We'll be playing the first scenario, Poison in High Society. The 17th of October, 1922, early in the morning, the famous detective Dennis was found dead in his bed, obviously poisoned. The day before, he was investigating at the Paris Opera where a charity gala was taking place. Trace his evening, as well as the suspects in this investigation, to identify the assassin. The base game comes with 3 scenarios. Each scenario can be played up to 5 times, all with unique solutions and higher difficulty levels. We'll be playing at the easiest level, just to show off the game and teach how it plays. For this scenario, we're told that the assassin had to be alone with the detective in order to poison him. We need to use that fact in order to find out who poisoned him, at what time, and in which location. In addition to the 6 locations, we also have 6 different times in which the poisoning could have happened, and we have 6 characters, including the detective. The setup book tells us that each character is going to move to an adjacent location for each one of these times. So they're never just going to stay in the same room, but it is possible that they could move to an adjacent room and then at some point move back. And lastly, it shows us where all 6 characters were located at time 1, at the very beginning. So on our sheet here, I've marked down the location of all 6. We have a map for each of the 6 different time periods. And then here in the middle, we have a little space where we can make little marks about each of the 6 characters. With that, let's just go ahead and get started, and I will teach the rules as we play. Now our detective starts here in the gallery. Since this is all about the detective, I want to follow him around and see where he goes. And so the first question is, does he go to the right or does he go to the left? I actually think we can answer that by just looking at the gallery here and finding out how many times he entered the gallery. So on our turn, we're essentially going to ask a question. And the way we do that is by picking one of the 6 locations. I'm going to pick the gallery. And then we pick either a character or a time placard. And I'm going to pick the detective. We then place this on top like that so it all lines up, and then flip it over. Now, if we were playing a multiplayer game, any information that was in this box would be information that I just keep to myself, while information in this box I would share with the group. I'd obviously be competing to try to solve the case before anyone else. And the game comes with nice little screens that you can put around your note sheet here so no one else can see it. In the solo game, we're just trying to solve the case as fast as possible. So I've asked 1 question. I'm just going to keep track of how many questions I ask. What this bit of information is telling me is that the detective was in this room this number of times. So out of the 6 different time periods, he was only in this gallery once. And we know exactly when that was. That was just here at the very beginning, time 1. And here, instead of getting any additional information, we instead get that symbol, which means take another turn. Now, in a multiplayer game, that would mean I would get to go again, and I would get to make another question rather than it just passing to the next person. In a solo game, that doesn't really mean anything. But I actually think that told us a lot, because it means that the detective probably didn't go to the left, because if he did, then he would just be bouncing between these 2 rooms for the rest of the evening. It's much more likely that he moved this way and had these 3 rooms to work with. So I'm going to go with that assumption. Now, we don't know that for sure, but I think that's a pretty good assumption. Once we're done, we put this back. And now we're ready to ask our second question. I think for my second question, I'm just going to assume that he walked over to the stage area. And so let's find out what kind of information we can get from that. Again, asking about the detective, because that's really who we care about here. He was the one who was murdered. Okay, and there we go. This is exactly what I was hoping for. We can see here, the detective has been here 2 times. At 2 different times during the night, he entered this room. That would be the information that we shared with everyone. The personal information that we would get is that one of those times was at time number 6. So we can come here and we can just write down the detective on the stage at time 6 because of that bit of information. In the solo game, the public information and the private information is the same. We get it both. And again, that was my second question. So that tells us beyond a shadow of a doubt that the other time that they entered the stage would be at time number 2. Went from the gallery to the stage, and then either went here, and then down, and then back up, and then back to the stage, or did the reverse. Started here, then went up to here, then went down here, and then went over here. Because again, they can't stay in the same room. They have to go to an adjacent room. And that also tells us for a fact that there was no detective in any of these rooms, basically at any time. So we can just completely rule all of that out. And if you wanted, you could notate it like this. And in fact, we also know not here. So with just those 2 questions, we were able to really narrow it down. I think the next question we need to ask is, did he start here and then go here and then back up, or vice versa? I don't really see any reason to favor one over the other, so let's just start with the music hall. Again, we're going to question the detective. And there we go. There's our answer. He was in the music hall just once, and it was in time 4. So that means from here, he went into here at time 3, into the music hall, and then back down to the dance hall, and then ended on the stage. And that was our third question. We've now managed to completely track the detective's movement. That's great. What we need to discover now is when he was alone and who he was alone with. And honestly, that could have happened at any one of these times. Any of these 3, either the adventurer, the baroness, or the servant, could have moved in here with him. I mean, that seems a little early. So let's start at 3. We'll start at number 3. We're going to go to the dance hall because we know the detective is in the dance hall. And rather than asking about the detective, we're going to ask about the time. We're trying to figure out what was going on in the dance hall at time 3. This is our 4th question. And what we found out is that there was only one person in the dance hall at time 3, and that person was the detective. So he couldn't have been poisoned here. There was only one person here. And we can actually just put a little ×1 there just to show that he was the only person there. Let's just keep going down the line here. We'll go to time 4. We now need to check in the music hall because that's where he is. And there we go. Same thing. He's completely alone. No one else there. was our 5th question. Let's just continue on. We'll go time 5. Back to the dance hall. Oh! And there we go. Look at that. There were 2 people in the room at time 5. And it even tells us one of the people was the adventurer. A for adventurer. And we know there were only 2 there. There was no one else. So we know that the adventurer was alone with the detective right then. Now that could have said detective, and then we would have had to figure out who was in there with them. But we got lucky, and it just showed that it was the adventurer. And so that's all the information that we need. That was our 6th question. We don't need to ask any more questions. The answer that we're looking for is here. The detective was poisoned by the adventurer in the dance hall at time 5. So we can now go to the book, flip the page to get the answer. The great adventurer Adelaide took revenge on the detective who had arrested her in 1912 for trafficking works of art. 5 years in prison gave her plenty of time to plot her vengeance. Culprit, the adventurer. Time, 5, location, the dance hall. And there you go. We have solved the case, and we've done it in 6 questions. You can see here it shows the movement of every character at each time. Immediately on the next page, it shows the number 2 version of this same setup, level 2 version, so a harder one. So it'll be a completely different solution. And also we can look here in the rule book. We can see here, Poison in High Society, we were playing the 1 star, and if we figured it out between 1 and 7 questions, that is a gold magnifying glass. If you do it in 8 to 13 questions, you get silver, and 14 plus is bronze. And there you go. That is a complete solo playthrough of Kronologic. Obviously, the deduction gets much more difficult with those harder investigations, but I don't want to give any more away because there's only 15 in the box. I find this to be a delightful deduction game. If you're into deduction, you should definitely give it a look. But that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.